welcome. My name is Medeya, and thank you so much for joining. And thank you to the Bloom community for having me on today. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm excited to jump into our topic today. And it's a perspective on what's often missing from our wellness work and from the personal and professional development that many of us are invested in. And the name of the masterclass is When Mindset is Not Enough, the missing link between optimal health, high performance, and sustainability. Because what if the missing link or the issue is not motivation or lack of motivation or lack of desire or lack of strategy or intention, but something deeper that we are not addressing? And as we go through the presentation, if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, but we will have a dedicated Q&A at the end, so you'll have an opportunity to ask me any questions, and we'll have a bit of a discussion, hopefully. Okay. Let's see. And I wanted to introduce myself first so that you know a little bit about myself. My background is actually in advertising. I have spent over 15 years in the corporate world, working for agencies, for in-house creative teams as a client service person, point of contact, and a project manager. So throughout my career, I have always been a high achiever and, always high performer and a very driven individual. And as I was going through my career, I was also experiencing a lot of challenges on my health level. So physically, emotionally, energetically, I was experiencing a lot of challenges. And I started to look for solutions for myself, so that I can address the things that I was struggling with, for lack of a better word. And I started to look for answers outside of the mainstream medical system. So looking to holistic wellness and alternative medicine. And I became very passionate about it. And as I looked for answers for myself, I started to also train and get certified in a lot of these modalities. So fast forward to today, I'm a board certified holistic health practitioner with my own holistic wellness practice called With Medeya. And I recently heard somebody say that there's nobody better to help you than somebody who's been where you are. And that is why I chose to focus my work on helping driven professionals and high achievers like myself to optimize their health, their potential, and their quality of life. And I do this with my clients by targeted work that identifies and removes any unseen blocks and burdens that are impacting them. So holding them back, keeping them stuck, or even keeping them sick. And I'll talk a little bit more about how this is done throughout the presentation as we get into it. And when we talk about our optimization of our wellness and our quality of life, we kind of like have to look at ourselves from a holistic perspective. So looking at our physical quality of life, emotional, mental, spiritual, and that's exactly what I do in my work with my clients. And as we all know, today's world is pretty stressful and pretty demanding, and that includes our workplace. And that is probably the first place that I look at with my clients. And that's probably the first place to look at because that's where we spend most of our time. And I have also found that that is probably the primary source of our chronic stress these days. And when we look at what the workplace experience is like for all of us. And this is something that I have experienced myself firsthand in my work, and what's shared with me by my clients, by friends, family, what's kind of like become the norm, are all of these things that I'm sharing on the screen today. And this is not to villainize the workplace or to point fingers, but this is merely to address the reality of what we experience today, right? So we have our stresses at home, maybe responsibilities, a lot of obligations, but also at work, where we spend the majority of our time. We are navigating a lot of high expectations, high pressures, high stakes accountability, which I'm sure is something that is very common in the compensation world, where most of you are. And the job landscape is very competitive. There's a lot of competition in the workplace. We're navigating complex dynamics in politics. And then the jobs themselves are often very deadline driven. That was certainly the case for myself. We're dedicating long hours to our jobs. We're almost always available, even outside of our office hours. And this leads to a lot of habits that are not in our, highest or best good. So maybe we're skipping meals, or we're eating on the go. That's often the case where we're eating at our desks. And, as I'm talking about it, I would love to know from all of you if this is something you're experiencing at work, or any other challenges that maybe are common for you. So feel free to drop it in the chat as I'm kind of talking here. So, and the reason why I mention all of these is because when all of this accumulates, it definitely attributes to hey, Harmony, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So yeah, a lot of this accumulates in our body and attributes to all of the chronic stress that we're experiencing, right? So, and like I said, I'm not here to debate what's going on in the workplace, but this is just the reality that we deal with. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Felicia, for mentioning that. And because of this chronic stress, we may be also experiencing, some symptoms in our well-being. So I just put some here for you as examples. So maybe you're experiencing low or no energy at all, especially after work. Maybe you're short on patience and snapping at your family or even at coworkers. You're struggling with poor sleep, digestion, you're experiencing tension. And many of us who are high achievers, we outwardly seem very successful, but maybe on the inside, we're feeling unmotivated, we're feeling stuck, maybe we're even lacking confidence, we don't want to speak up in meetings. And at times we have trouble focusing or even making decisions. So we're not fully trusting ourselves. So I don't know if these also feel familiar to you, or maybe you're experiencing other things, but I'd love to hear from you in the chat again to see if any of this sounds familiar, if maybe there's other things that you're experiencing. But yeah, I'd love to know. But this was definitely the case for me. A lot of the presentation that I'm giving today, this is based on my firsthand experience, the experience of, like I said, my clients. So I think in a lot of ways, this has kind of like become the epidemic of chronic stress in the world. And one of the main reasons why I do what I do. Yeah. So I'm getting some answers here to say this is familiar. needing to set boundaries, absolutely. And I think lack of boundaries is also something that we start to experience as a result of this chronic stress and tension and some kind of internal blocks that I will talk about in a second. Running on low energy by the end of the day, yes, for sure. Energy is one of those things that is a a commodity for us these days, but it really shouldn't be. So yeah, lots of things going on with us physically and emotionally as a result of the stresses that we experience day-to-day life, right? And interestingly, I was at the Bloom retreat last year in Tampa, and I got to talk to a lot of the women in your community, and that's exactly what I was hearing. And one of the reasons why I decided to come have this masterclass today is always hearing about chronic illness and all of these symptoms, just even outside of my practice, and something I feel really passionately about. So, like I said, many of us experience this on a day-to-day basis. And like myself, you're probably, committed to your well-being, committed to your growth, and invested in your well-being and growth. And this growth even includes professional growth, right? So it's all interconnected. And if you're like me, you have probably looked for many solutions to try and address all of these issues. So maybe you've tried meditation and yoga and, mindfulness techniques, recited affirmations. Maybe you even worked with a coach. And, I don't know if you have felt this way when you've tried these things, but when I was looking for solutions for myself and trying all of these things, I really loved all of these tools, and I still think that they're very valuable. But there was always something missing. Like they really felt like temporary solutions. I felt great in the moment, but it wasn't really sustainable. It wasn't really attributing to sustainable changes. So I would love to know again from you if what you've tried to address any of your chronic symptoms or the symptoms that I've just mentioned, or to address your even performance at work. Maybe you've tried some tools. I'd love to hear what you have tried and whether it's worked for you, if you feel comfortable sharing. And Felicia also said, I got chronic illness about 10 years ago too, due to high demands on the job. Absolutely. This happens quite a bit. Going to the beach. Yeah, that's great. I think being in nature is incredibly invaluable. Right. Yep. Grounding in water and going to yoga twice a week. Okay. And do you think that these are helping you in a sustainable manner? Like how much of a difference are these making? Harmony, you're much better than me. I'm glad to hear you exercise every morning. That's really great. Movement is really, really important. It's a constant, yes. So Tamara says it's a constant challenge. You really have to decide to choose you first. Absolutely. And I think, especially as women, and especially as women who are so dedicated to their families and to their work, we often put ourselves last, right? And like you said, put your mask on first. It's a good reminder that you can't pour from an empty cup. So, but many of us put work and put our others first, for better or worse. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with me. And I think that all of the techniques that you just mentioned, like being in nature, exercise, doing yoga, these are really great tools to have. And I have used them myself. I use them as much as possible, especially being in nature. But what I've also found, and I don't know if that is the case for you, is that a lot of these, like I said, feel like they give a temporary relief, but they don't really get to the deeper root causes of what's going on. And maybe they're not feel like they give a lot of like permanent relief. And this is where I kind of wanted to bring us back to talking about the mindset, because I think that mindset has become such a hot topic these days. And I hear about mindset all the time on social media. And so I went to Google, wanted to make sure that I have an understanding of what the definition is. So mindset is the established set of attitudes held by someone, right? So it's the attitudes and the beliefs that we hold. And mindset, in my opinion, is extremely valuable. So there's growth mindset, there's wellness mindset, and mindset is very important when it comes to making improvements in your well-being, in your development, but it is not the starting place of this work. And I'll explain why. So mindset is often the conscious set of our beliefs. And those beliefs are often existing very deep inside in our subconscious mind. So if, let's say, our mindset is based on core beliefs that are rooted in fear, in lack, in low self-worth, in self-doubt, that's the foundation that we're starting on. So when we're trying to apply, let's say, a positive mindset on top of this shaky foundation, you are still working with a framework, with the original framework that is not strong, right? So in order to apply mindset, the core beliefs and the deeper beliefs have to be addressed. So you have to go to the level that's below mindset. I hope that makes sense. And I'll dive deeper into it. So the reason why many of us feel like we're doing everything right, but we're not seeing sustainable results is because we are not getting to that deeper level. Because oftentimes we're working at the superficial level of the issues that we're dealing with. And that includes the mindset. And what's often overlooked and not addressed in our wellness journey, in our professional and personal development, like I mentioned, is what is going on at the subconscious level. And the reason why it's important to look at the subconscious mind is because roughly 95% of our daily actions and decisions are coming from the subconscious mind. And all of these daily actions and decisions are automatic because they're coming from the subconscious mind. So to really explain how that affects us, I wanted to explain the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind so that you have the full picture of what I'm talking about. So the conscious mind is our logical and analytical, whereas the subconscious mind is the automatic, instinctive, habitual. It's like the automatic response. The conscious mind is ruled by the logic and the rationale, whereas the subconscious mind is a collection of all of our emotions, past experiences, all of our deep-rooted beliefs. So the limiting beliefs are here as well. The conscious mind is responsible for all of our voluntary actions and decisions. So let's say New Year's rolls around and you're making New Year's resolutions and you make a resolution to, let's say, lose weight. That's your conscious mind making that plan and consciously wanting to lose weight. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is responsible for the involuntary functions and habits and actions. So it's also the place that is responsible for keeping us safe. right? So the subconscious mind is the one that's keeping us safe and making sure that we are, not threatened by something, and it's our survival mechanism. So if the subconscious mind perceives a plan that we make that's not safe for us or in any way threatens us, what it will do is that it will sabotage, or will not let you take any action that you want to consciously take. And for example, that losing weight that I was just talking about, not to derail us into another topic, but many times gaining weight and weight in general is connected to not feeling safe. So if in some way or shape or form in your subconscious mind, you believe that losing weight is not safe for you, even though you're consciously making efforts and plans to lose weight, subconsciously you will keep self-sabotaging because you don't feel safe losing weight. So that will translate to you making excuses, not going to exercise, or not changing your eating habits. And that's exactly how the subconscious mind works. It is really powerful, and without you even knowing, it will affect your daily actions. I hope that makes sense. And the subconscious mind is extremely powerful. It's 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. So whatever lives in your subconscious is what you bring into your reality. And that affects your physical well-being, that affects your actions, that even affects your success in life. That's basically what we're working on, and that's what we need to address. And it's really hard to override those subconscious beliefs and the subconscious patterns that you have. And just the positive thinking or forcing yourself to be positive or reciting affirmations alone is not going to override it, because these are sort of like superficial attempts at changing something that is very deep inside of you. So it's hard to force new beliefs, new habits, or even recognize or change those patterns on your own, because they are at the unconscious level. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my presentation. So in order to really achieve the sustainable results that we're looking for when it comes to your physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual well-being, we need to address the deeper patterns that exist at the subconscious level. So those are unprocessed emotions, because many of us carry those unprocessed emotions in our body. And what they do is they take up space, energetic space, and they prevent the energetic flow in our organs, in our body. And it's sort of like the extra weight that you're carrying. We have stress at the cellular level because what happens is that our body remembers every single negative thing that happens to us throughout our life, whether that's something that's small or maybe something big like trauma. So it stores all of that in the body at the cellular level, and those can be triggered, and your body can replay that stress on the loop when it's triggered by something like a smell that reminds you of something, or music, or a person or a situation. So that stress can be triggered at the cellular level every time your body remembers or recalls that event. And then we also carry a lot of subconscious negative beliefs, and very deeply rooted in us. So a lot of times we don't even know that we have a certain belief. I see this all the time in my practice, because many times we consciously think that we feel a certain way, but internally it's actually the opposite. And that's because a lot of these negative beliefs that we carry are collected, for lack of a better word, collected throughout our lives. So from when we were children to even as adults, and they're imprinted on our subconscious from, you know, what I call our circle of influence. So maybe as children, it could be our families, our parents, our friends, our teachers. And as we're growing up, it could be even beliefs from other people, like our partners, our coworkers, our bosses. And these are beliefs that are stored very deep inside our subconscious, like I said, and they drive a lot of our behaviors. So all of these things that are deeper inside of us, like the unprocessed emotions that I mentioned, the stress at the cellular level, and these limiting beliefs that are very deeply rooted, they're all quietly shaping our day-to-day experience without us even knowing. So our well-being, our behaviors and habits, even our potential, our success, and even our money, because a lot of our money beliefs drive what we believe we deserve to get in terms of like our pay, for example. So I hope this makes sense. I think this is sort of like the root that many of us are missing. And this was certainly the case for me when I was working on myself, and I'm still working on myself, but when I was in my journey deep in it, the change really started to happen when I started to address these deeper patterns. And it is truly my belief that if you want deeper transformation and if you want sustainable results, you need to look at tools that work at this deeper level. And in the work that I do with my clients, we work with the nervous system to identify and clear specifically these subconscious blocks, the burdens, and the stressors that the body is using up as for energy. And our body is an incredibly intelligent machine. So it has all of the self-healing mechanisms inside of it. And most of the time, the body will pay attention to what I call sort of like the junk data that exists inside of us, like all of these blocks and the stressors. So the body, instead of allocating the energy to its self-healing mechanisms, is allocating the energy to sort of like taking care of all of this junk data that we're carrying inside of us. And that's why a lot of times we may be feeling exhausted, because the internal stressors are taking up so much of our energy. And our body can come back to its balance when we give it the right tools and we give it the right nourishment and we get the junk data out of the way. So in the work that I do, I use something called muscle testing, which is a way to communicate with the nervous system and with the subconscious to identify those stressors. And when I work with my clients, we specifically look at all of these things that you're seeing on the screen to test where the blocks are existing. So we look at body systems, organs, glands, tissues, hormones, neurotransmitters, scars, tattoos, piercings, to name just a few. And this is not to say that, I diagnose them with some kind of a disease. We're just looking at emotional and energetic imbalances and internal stressors that are contributing to maybe physical symptoms or preventing you from reaching your goals, or just holding you back on some level. And I truly believe, and one of the things that I kind of found throughout my work and on my personal journey is that many of our physical symptoms have a root cause that's emotional. So the emotional part is really important to address when you're working with the physical. And even in my emotional blocks with other people, with specific places, and even look at past events that may have happened that have some kind of an impact to this day on my client. And I was just mentioning how the body is so intelligent and it has its innate healing processes. So the goal of the work is to redirect the energy out of the stress loops that are existing within us and to free up the energy that is supposed to be there and is supposed to be used towards the body's innate healing processes. So when you are taking out all of the junk that exists at the subconscious level, and the body can pay attention to its processes, to its innate processes, that's when you get the sustainable results. And you're looking at improvements on your physical, emotional, spiritual well-being. And you can also have a more potential for reaching your personal or professional goals. It is all interconnected. And the goal of the work and the goal of taking out, again, this junk data is to achieve better outcomes that are more lasting. So you get lasting clarity, lasting purpose, lasting energy. So some of the results that I've seen in myself and in my clients as a result of kind of getting to the subconscious is more resilience, more sustainable energy, more emotional ease, clear thinking, better decision making where you're trusting yourself more and you're more confident in your decisions, firmer boundaries. So really kind of developing the sense of what you wish to accept and what you do not wish to accept for yourself, and creating those boundaries and maintaining those boundaries, which also create healthier relationships and, healthier habits. Feeling more confident and feeling more empowered at every level, becoming more in tune with your body, having the chance to even unblock money, success, and prosperity because you're getting rid of the subconscious negative beliefs around what your self-worth is, what you're able to achieve, and even money beliefs. We carry a lot of negative money beliefs in our subconscious that we don't even realize. You're able to improve habits that you are normally perpetuating. And you can even support your body's innate detox systems with the work that I do to release physical and emotional toxins. We already have all of our what we call drainage pathways, so things like our liver, our lymph, our kidneys. But many times their optimal way of working is impeded because maybe there's emotional toxins that we're carrying. And by toxins, I mean like negative beliefs again, or emotional stress. So they need some support in letting go. And this is especially important for somebody who tends to hold on a lot. This was me, actually. I had a really hard time letting go. And when you have an emotional kind of attachment to keeping things, right? So your body has a hard time detoxing and letting go. So you need to help your body with this emotional release. So I just wanted to share some of the results and some of the things that you would want to work towards as you're working on your subconscious, and some of the results that I've seen in my work and in myself. So I also, wanted to mention that I do offer a free consultation for the work that I do. So I encourage you to reach out to me, ask me any questions. I always love to talk about it and I love to meet people. So if you have any questions or you're wondering if this could help you, feel free to schedule the free consultation with me. And if you are not working with me, I would still encourage you to really look at what is driving your day to day by looking at the subconscious patterns and subconscious beliefs that you have. There's lots of tools out there. There's, lots of things that you can use, but I think the main takeaway from my session is that really to make sustainable results, we start with the subconscious and with the things that are driving our core beliefs and the internal stress that we're carrying, whether it's unprocessed emotions or stress at the cellular level. And that is really what makes a huge difference in making the shift. So that wraps up my presentation, and I really wanted to thank you for listening to me. I can talk about this for hours. I hope it wasn't too boring, and I hope you got a lot out of it.